Ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Are you ready?
Okay, here we go.
You're listening to the Deal Room Podcast. Join us as we bring you the inside scoop on business sales and acquisitions. Get across trends in the area and hear the industry's best recount their real-life tips, traps, and experiences. Now, here's your host, Joanna Oakey.
Hi, it's Joanna Oakey here, and welcome back to the Deal Room Podcast, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. Now, today we are back with part 2 of our 2-part series with Mark Attard from Xcllusive Business Sales, all about buying and selling accounting practices. Now, if you haven't listened to part 1 of this 2-part series, then make sure you go back to the episode prior to this, where we look at filtering prospects, we looked at due diligence, we look at the classic mistakes that sellers make in selling their accounting practice. We talk about the benefits of using a broker, and we talk about what makes selling or buying accounting practices a little bit different from many other types of businesses. But here in this part 2 of the series, we will be talking about current market conditions before and during COVID. We'll talk about valuation aspects in relation to business clients versus individual returns and the quality of the accounting clients in your book. We'll talk about committing to the process, and we provide some final tips and takeaways. So buckle in, here we go with part 2 of our 2-part series all about buying and selling accounting practices. So maybe let's switch topics a little bit and let's look at what current market conditions are looking like at the moment. So what's it looking like out there? And we've said, just generally there's more buyer interest than there are sellers, but how has COVID impacted all of this? What have you seen as a result of COVID?
Look, during COVID, just generally on business sales, it was very quiet for the first few months of COVID, but the activity level in the last month has just gone through the roof.
So we're seeing exactly the same. It's just, it's going mental, isn't it?
I've seen it in property, and I've seen it with business sales, the amount of inquiries. It's almost like everyone's coming out of hibernation and thought, no, we've got to get on with life, and we want to be doing stuff and reaching our goals. So it's really nice actually to see things change so quickly and for the positive.
Yeah. Yep, optimism come back. Yeah. And so what does that mean? So we've got a lot more activity coming on, and have you got much inquiry for accounting practices as part of that activity that's coming on?
I have to be honest, we haven't had many sellers come to us for accounting practice. And in fact, that's happened a lot across a whole range of industries where people think that because of COVID, it's not a good time to sell.
Yes.
But I don't think it's a bad time to sell. Like I think there are buyers out there wanting to do stuff.
Yeah. I think the fear for sellers right now is that they're going to be, if they put their business out to market, that they're just going to get cut price offers, that they're not going to be able to realise the full value of the practice that they should. But do you know what? We've got lots of buyers going on, interest from buyers for accounting practices that are just, they're not out there trying to assuming they're going to be able to get something at some discounted price. They're just ready to grow. They think this is a great way to do it, and they're ready to pay the right price. So, my comment is don't be scared about selling because you think you're going to be beat down on price because of COVID-related issues.
Yeah, it's
the reverse.
We're not seeing that, Joanne.
Yeah,
it's people are willing to pay a fair price for the risk they take, and generally the market is at the moment, from what I'm seeing, we break up our an accounting practices book into business type clients and I-return clients. Mm-hmm. And obviously the business clients are more valuable than the individual clients. So, generally 50 to 60 cents we put on the I-return type clients. Mm-hmm. And a business client between $1 and $1.20 mm-hmm. would be a good range. So depending on your mix between business clients, and when I say business clients, you group them. So, if you've got a group, a group of companies and the directors, you group it together and it's classed as a business client or business group. Whereas your I-return is your typical, client that walks in with a shoebox, you charge them $250, say, that's your I-return, and obviously that's less valuable to a client. And look, I've had some clients that have said, look, I'll buy the business clients off, and generally it doesn't work. It's pretty messy for a seller to split up a
sell
book.
the business and the I returns to someone else. Yeah,
So,
yes, I can see we've got some buyers who don't want the only want the business, not the I returns, but it's hard, right?
I think you have to buy it lock, stock, and barrel, and then over time increase the business. The reliance on the business clients, and reduce your reliance on the I return clients by adjusting fees, because you do see a lot of firms where I return clients are not giving enough return to cover their costs. Because there's a lot of competition in that space as well, where you've got, people. I don't know if people are charging as little as $80 a I return anymore, but certainly in the old days it was.
Yes.
But it's difficult to make money on those sort of clients unless you're running it from a home office or something similar.
And just looking at this, this breakdown in the difference between in the way of pricing. What we were talking before about differences in the accounting industry versus other industries in sales and acquisitions. One is certainly the pricing on top line here, as we're talking about, rather than a reference to the profit. But there is a point in the size of a practice when we move into more conventional pricing based on the EBITDA. So what do you have to say about that, Mark? Where do you see that sort of coming, that line?
Yeah. So look, on a sale of a practice up to about $800 to $1 million, typically the top line pricing, dollar for a fee of income, generally works. But above that, generally you move to more traditional ways of valuing a business, and that's back to a multiple. And generally, we see most businesses, you would look at a multiple of a maximum of 3 times, and it's probably no different to an accounting firm, 3-time multiple of profits after an owner's wage. So say you've got a practice with $1.2 million in fees and owner's salary is $200,000. So net of the owner's salary, it's earning, say, $300,000. Well, $300,000 at a multiple of 3 times, the firm's worth around the 900 mark.
And what are things that impact what multiple might be applied to the practice? Like, for example, I'm an accounting practice owner. I'm looking at selling the next 3 to 5 years. What can I do? I'm over the 1 mil mark. What can I do to increase the likelihood that I'm going to have the highest multiple possible?
That highest multiple, Joanna, would apply where you've got the optimum level of risk and reward.
But I guess where is it that your buyers, what kind of practice will your buyers pay the most for? What do they want to
okay. So typically a good spread of clients and a good.
And what do you mean by that,
a
good spread?
So you don't want to have one client that represents 30% of your income.
Yeah, right.
Particularly if the client's a good friend of the accountant.
Yeah.
Because, it's going to be really hard to step in the shoes of the outgoing accountant in that case. So, typically if, if one client represents, 5 or so percent, that's a good sign. But, if you've got a client that represents 20 or 30% of the fee book, it does make it difficult, and it's more likely that your retentions being held is going to be a lot higher.
Yeah.
That's one situation, but also the age of the clients as well. So if you've got, an accountant that's, well into his 70s, and most of his clients are, are starting to get into their 60s and, retirement years, obviously they're not going to be wanting to do much going forward, or they're going to do less than they did when they were in their 30s and 40s. So, it's a less active database to generate income from. But, in saying that, a lot of these older clients would probably introduce their kids that are more likely to be doing stuff and generating, income, doing property developments, buying businesses. So, it's just a matter of sort of assessing where the majority of that client base sits.
Yep. Brilliant. Okay, wonderful. So, Mark, one thing I have heard in the industry is that accountants sometimes can be one of the more difficult industries in terms of sellers to deal with. And you don't have to say yes or no here, but, you don't have to agree or not. But can you just let me know if that was the case, what are the things that sellers should be aware of that they could possibly be doing in this market that trip them up? Like, what are things that you've seen accounting practice sellers do that have really caused them problems and maybe turn them into what can be difficult clients to deal with?
Part of the problem there, Joanna, is the relationship the selling accountant has with his clients. It's a good thing, but at the same time, breaking that bond that's been there for 30 years, it's a difficult ask.
Yeah.
So, it's not all about the dollars. It's a lot of the soft issues. It's being, having someone look after the staff.
Yeah.
A lot of the times these staff that are working in accounting practices have been there 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And, for an incoming accountant to say, look, I'm going to buy your firm, but I'm going to outsource all the back office to India or somewhere like that. I think you'll find that there'd be a number of accountants, a percentage of accountants that would say, I don't think I like where this is heading. Let's find another buyer. And there is always another buyer around. So, I don't think it's an issue of, cutting out too many options there.
And I guess it's not, I don't think there's issues caused by the fact that a seller doesn't necessarily want something, it has wants to make sure that their staff are looked after and their clients are cared for into the future. What I think creates the problems is when accountants don't realise what a high priority this is from the beginning, right? And they start down the process and it only becomes apparent to them later on and causes deals to fall over because they've not been clear with themselves in the beginning. Like, do you think that's ultimately the issue?
Look, one of the most difficult deals I had was where a principal came to me and he wasn't well. And I think that happens quite often with accounting firms. And, you're leaving it so late that it's difficult to have an orderly transition to a new owner.
Right, yeah.
So you're never going to get full price in that. That's probably the worst scenario where someone's ill or, or a worse situation than that when they pass. And, you're leaving it to the partner to look after, a transition of clients to a new owner.
Yep.
It's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I've been involved. I have been involved with one. And, had he started a couple of years earlier, it could have happened with a lot less fuss.
A lot quicker,
easier, more value.
Yeah.
All those things, yeah.
So the message here is start early, start thinking about it early. I think get educated about the process. Don't feel like you're meant to understand the process from beginning to end just because as an accountant you've worked on parts of these transactions. There's so many elements that you don't fully appreciate until you're actually in it.
Yeah.
I think be honest with yourself from the beginning about what your values are in that sale in terms of your clients and your staff as well.
And you'll know when you're ready. You need to be convinced that you are ready, though. You can't go into this process and have doubts. I think you need to know your times. You're ready to sell and commit to the process.
Commit to the process. That's a really good point, Mark. I love it.
Well, I always tell people, all the issues that are coming up now are going to be as tedious in 10 years' time as they are now, or if not more tedious. So, those issues aren't going to go away. Selling a business is probably one of the more difficult processes most people have to go through. And most people come to us as sellers, have not sold a business before, so they don't realise how involved it does get and how much the negotiation of the price is only one small aspect. The rest of the negotiation will come later. And, people need to be prepared for that. So, yeah.
That's such a good point because quite often they think it's the price and ultimately it's everything else. Right?
Yeah. Well, like when we take a deposit off someone for a business, I say, great, we're 10% of the way there.
Yeah.
They don't believe it. They think, it's like selling a house. I've got a deposit down. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Not the case. It's, lots of things happen between taking a deposit and taking your business off the market. Basically, when you take a deposit on a business, you're taking it off the market to allow someone to do some due diligence, work out whether it's for them or not. And I would say, generally speaking, once you've taken the deposit, you're 20% of the way there. You've got a long way to go to get it across the line. So, and that comes back to having a broker that can, negotiate between parties.
Yep.
And take the emotion out of the deal.
Yep. Take the emotion out of the deal and have your deal team in place who are used to moving these deals along. So I can't stress enough, a deal team that you trust. You really need a broker and a lawyer who you trust, understands your practice, understands the industry, understands how to find the right match for you, and understands how to make the process, how to move the process along so that, conservative nature of the industry doesn't have the effect of causing stalls in the sale, right?
So true. Another challenge with selling accounting practices is everyone's got their own relationship with a local solicitor. But, the question needs to be asked how often that solicitor is handling a business sale.
Yeah. And an accounting practice sale.
And accounting practice sale. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. But, if you haven't done it before or done it once before, it's going to be a hard process to go through the legals.
Yep.
So, I'd recommend someone that's selling an accounting firm goes to someone like Aspect Legal to handle the sale process for them.
Mark, you're amazing. I promise I did not pay him to say that.
Oh, goodness me. I don't want to listen to this podcast afterwards, so whatever you put in there, it's fine. So.
Mark, look, this has just been absolutely fabulous. I knew I was going to love having this chat.
Thank you, Joanna.
It's an industry that I'm really passionate about because we've dealt with lots of, accounting practice acquisitions and sales, and I can just... I love to see it when it works well, and it pains me greatly when I see mistakes that are made that could have been avoided from the beginning. If only, the practice owners had a bit of an understanding of the process more than perhaps they'd had sitting in the advisor's seat and having the right people on board to help them. So, Mark, I just want to say a massive thank you for coming today to talk about all of these issues. And I want to say before we leave off, was there anything else that we left unsaid? Was there anything else that, you thought we should mention to our accounting practice owners who I'm sure are listening in here and wanting to know what it is that they should be aware of when they're preparing for sale?
Look, Joanna, I'd like to put a invitation out. If someone wants to contact me, they can contact me at mark@xclusive.com.au. That's spelled XCLLUSIVE. I'm not sure if we can tag that in somehow.
100%. That'll go in the show notes.
Or reach out to me on phone, 0430 599 001. I'm happy to have an initial discussion. Our business is about people, reaching out to lots of people. And if someone's has got a thought in mind about buying or selling practices, please reach out.
Brilliant. Okay, absolutely love it, Mark. Well, of course, as always, if you're running along the beach while listening to this on your commute into work, probably not. I don't know. Guess it depends where you are in the country. But if you don't have a pen and paper handy, don't worry, because we've got links through to Mark right in the show notes and on our website at thedealroompodcast.com. Mark, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's just been an absolute pleasure having you and talking about all of these issues and insights that I so love to talk about.
Thanks so much, Joanna, for having me on your show.
Well, that's it. The last in our two-part series, all about buying and selling accounting practices. I hope you really enjoyed this two-part series. I certainly enjoyed recording it, as always. Now, if you want to find more details about Mark Attard at Xclusive Business Sales, all you need to do is head over to our website at www.thedealroompodcast.com. dealroompodcast.com. And there, as I said, you'll be able to link straight through to Mark Attard, but you will also be able to download a transcript of this podcast episode if you're the kind of person who just likes to read through this type of thing in more detail. At the website, you'll also be able to find details of how to contact our legal eagles at Aspect Legal. If you are interested in looking at gearing up for a sale of your accounting practice, or perhaps you're on that path of acquisition, which is such a great idea, growth through acquisition of other accounting practices, you can set up a time to have a free discussion with our legal eagles about what it is that you're looking to do so that we can help provide a little bit of direction. Well, that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this two-part series with Mark Attard from Xcllusive Business Sales. And if indeed you did enjoy what you heard, then I'd encourage you to head over to your favourite podcast player. Firstly, hit subscribe to make sure we're delivered to your phone every week as we release. And maybe you'd be so kind as to leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. The reviews help us reach a wider audience. But other than that, that's it. I just want to say a very big thank you once again for listening in. You've been listening to Joanna Oakey and the Deal Room Podcast, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. See you next time. Are you looking for a top quality legal team to assist you in your organisation? Aspect Legal is an innovative commercial legal practice that specialises in providing fast and professional services for their clients. If you'd like to chat about how we might be able to assist you, simply head over to our website at aspectlegal.com.au to book in a time for a free discussion with one of our lawyers.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.
Thanks for listening to the Deal Room Podcast. To find out more about this episode and other episodes in the series, check out the show notes or head over to our website at thedealroompodcast.com.au.